All right. I do believe we should be live. At least I hope we are. Okay. Looks like we're up and running. Let's go ahead and get a couple things knocked out here. I'm hoping that I can add some polls over here in the chat without having to switch over to YouTube. That way I can kill YouTube on the other side. But let's see if I can do that while we're waiting for some folks to come in here. Mac, good to see you. So we're going to get cracking here in just a few minutes. Well, it looks like to put up polls. I'm going to have to do that in the YouTube chat. So hopefully the flipping back and forth doesn't make too much of an issue there. Zedren, what's up, man? How's it going? It's got 5 in here so far. We're going to wait just a little bit to get some more folks, give some folks a little bit more time to come in. Tyrion, how's it going, man? How's it going? Good to see you. Had a lot of fun on OX this week. Yes, indeed. 3.5 supremacy. If you're playing D&D, that is the best D&D. At least as far as it being a complete game, a complete and versatile game system, 3.5 is the best. Not saying that there aren't other systems that are better for one thing or another, but as far as it being a complete versatile game system that can be used for multiple different genres, multiple different modes of play within fantasy, 3.5 is far and away the best of the Dungeons and Dragons editions. Got a little Remus barrel proof here. Good bourbon to kick the night off. And we're going to be talking about some music and your tabletop role playing. It's more than anything else. It'll be about how you can use them to inspire different adventures. And I think what I'd like to do once we get things rolling here is I'll throw some polls down in chat to whether or not a song should get kicked or brought back in. Keep it on the list, kick it from the list, maybe take another few songs out of here depending on how fast things are going. Just trying to put a little bit of a D&D or TTRPG album together, and who knows, maybe I'll put those together and throw them up on Drive Through RPG, trying to do my best to make some multifaceted adventures so they can be Call of Cthulhu and Cyberpunk and D&D or some other version of fantasy. Find some ways to put those together. Can't write a message in the super chat. That doesn't make any sense. Hold on a second. Let me yeah, I do need to check out the Faroon stuff. I haven't paid too much attention to it. They screw up so much stuff that it's been they screw up so much stuff with the new, how they've changed systems and that sort of thing. And over at Wizards of the Coast, that I just don't it's kind of hard to say. I just do not trust them. I don't really. Anytime they put something out, I just don't give them the benefit of any doubt anymore. So when they screw something up, to me, it's just kind of like, hey, who cares? They screwed something up. I mean, it doesn't matter. Let's see here. I'm trying to make some kind of alteration on these super chats real quick before we get cracking, because you should be able to say something if you want to do that. Let's see here. Message restricted. Well, you're going to unrestrict that. Let's see if there's a way I can do that. Well, heck, it doesn't even let me unrestrict it. Yes, very much so. Everything Wizards of the Coast touches turns to woke dog shit. That is indeed the truth, Dan. You were spot on. But I don't know why it is doing that with the super chats. I could have swore I had my super chats set to allow commenting at every level, because I know sometimes if you put in like a super chat for like 50 cents or something, like I think over on with Double D, I think it's like a minimum of like $5 or a minimum of $1 or something like that in order to actually have a comment attached to it. And sometimes it's like, you get so many characters, but I thought I had all my stuff set to 0 because I'm interested in what you have to say. And that, especially if you're giving me money, I'm really interested in what you have to say, regardless of what the number is. So let's see here. Let's check out who we got in chat, and we're going to get cracking here. We got Mac, we got Zed, got Tilt here, Bunser. Good to have you, man. Dan Test, great to see you there. Let's see here. Conan the Barbarian soundtrack, Lord of the Rings soundtrack, Howard Shore from Hell soundtrack. There's all some good scores there, but I'm talking about actually taking the songs and using them as inspiration to create adventures, not so much using them as like, hey, backup. Like, I'm not looking for like backing music or atmosphere music. Let's see here. Yes, they probably are going to fuck up Dark Sun. I mean, I don't know how they're going to be able to do Dark Sun, which does make me laugh, because Dark Sun, if folks remember, Dark Sun is actually it's an environmentalist setting. It is a Greenpeace, global warming, nuclear winter setting. It was what it always was. And it's just really stupid that because there's slavery in it, and because it's definitely a dark setting, the woke tards of the coast can't get past that, when it's probably a setting that was almost perfectly tailor fit to their politics and their nonsense. So, hey, super genius, even though I didn't read at a collegiate level in first grade like some people. Come on, man. Let's not go attacking people from the Discord in the chat. I mean, it's the truth. It's just like one of the dumbest brags ever. If you haven't seen Second Story's video on it, Second Story did a great breakdown on literacy and how literacy is failing in the country, largely by how we teach people to read. And I see this all the time. It's actually something that will help you understand why a lot of arguments online tend to go astray, because we read these arguments. Thank you, sir. For the $1.99. Post whatever it is you want, and I will just go ahead and say it, because there's no reason why that should not be allowing you to type. But essentially, they teach people through, and you want to talk about a loaded term, but it's 100% straight and 100% right. It's called critical literacy. Basically, they teach people to read and to analyze words based on like a cultural basis. And this is how we've taught people to read, especially in public schools, since the 90s. And they, in Second Story, she went through and spoke about how they did this study, and they had like 75 or 80 grad students and seniors that were in the English literature program or were English literature bachelors in the grad school at these prestigious liberal arts colleges, some of the best English departments in the country. And they gave them all a passage from Charles Dickens to read and analyze. And they rank literacy on like a scale of 1 to 4. And all these great English lit majors were like falling into, I don't know if that's my camera or what, but where people were just making up definitions of words rather than looking them up, trying to figure them out by feel, were skimming instead of actually reading. And it was laughable. You could read the passage, look, this piece of descriptive prose, and then you could read the breakdown where they explained what was happening in the scene. And it was so far from what they were actually saying that it wasn't even funny. And you see that all the time in these like X debates and online discussions where these people go in and they read the words, and you're like, how the hell did you even get that? Do you read English? Do you comprehend these words? And it's no, you don't comprehend these words. You try to interpret them based on some kind of cultural zeitgeist rather than actually reading and comprehending them. Dan, absolutely correct. We teach people to read, and we don't teach people to comprehend. And we barely teach them to read anymore. Yep. Mac, dead on right there. They teach you what to think, not how to think. That is about as accurate as it gets. And yeah, you got some folks down here. Thank God I learned to read in the 70s. Thank God I learned to read from my dad before I ever set foot in a school. So it's pretty bad. I think that is correct. I think it is the first 8 paragraphs of Bleak House. Yeah, I do believe that is the study. And she went through it in detail. It's like, you guys, this is pathetic. You are going to school. And I want to say that the lowest level, that you're correct, Mac, they were English majors. If I remember correctly, the lowest level, though, was juniors. So these were not freshmen and sophomores. It was juniors, seniors, and grad students in that English lit program. And they were English literature majors who could not analyze Dickens, which is just astounding. Honestly, you should be able to read Dickens in high school pretty fluently. You should be able to read just about anything outside of like a technical paper or something truly intricate in high school. So, yep. 60 to 70% of the people I was with in community college couldn't read an analog clock. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. But then again, that's one of the things that's it's almost a cross that a lot of us here in the TTRPG hobby kind of have to bear, is that reading and not only reading just the practice of it, but reading to truly visualize, to truly bring in what's being told by the author, to really paint that picture and to live in that text and truly comprehend it. That kind of goes hand in hand with what we do in the TTRPG space. So a lot of us tend to be tremendously more well-read, and it's kind of a cross to bear for sure. I got folks in here like, good old Death Angel Shadow, reading at a 9th grade level by 1st grade, and most ninth graders don't read at a 1st grade level. Yes, Mac, you are 100% correct. It was I want to say it was a 93 or 95% failure at comprehension rate in that study, which is absolutely astounding. And I was reading, I think I read The Hobbit for the first time when I was like 5 or 6. And my dad had read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings to me at least twice by then. Because we used to me and my brother he used to read to us every night before bed. And yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I took a reading assessment test, I think I was in 1st grade, and I was testing at a 7th or an 8th grade level, for what that's worth. But I was already reading these things. By the time I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, I was pulling, in some cases, books I probably shouldn't have been reading at that age, like Dragon Riders of Pern and stuff, off the shelf and reading them, and was just tearing through my dad's fantasy collection. A good bit of which is on that shelf back there. At least a chunk of it is. I'd read The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings numerous times by that point. And yeah, it's sad. Yeah, there you go. Read Lord of the Rings in second grade, discovered Dragonlance novels, been a reader ever since. So, but yeah, that's one of the sad things there. You see that? You're getting it across the board. And we're going to move on now from that lovely topic and move into some of this topic of the evening here, talking about music. And when I say, hey, Dungeons and Dragons, the album, first off, I mean TTRPG, the album, but the algorithm definitely likes Dungeons and Dragons better. So what I'm looking at here is I got a list of songs right here. Some that I've made, some that I got from some other folks, and a couple of ground rules that I pulled out is I wanted to eliminate anything that was explicitly based on a particular work. And I wanted to eliminate things that were based on history, because using history as a funnel and as an inspiration for adventures is its own topic and its own thing. So, for instance, you had some stuff like Dream Warriors by Dokken. Can't be here because that's literally a title track for a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Great song, could easily be taken in many different directions, could be something else. Not for this list. One that kind of stung me a little bit, I had to get rid of Electric Eye by Judas Priest, because Electric Eye is based on 1984. That's the heavy inspiration behind that song. And then, of course, you got your obvious stuff like, any of the Misty Mountain Hop or Battle Forevermore, the Led Zeppelin songs that are just straight up descriptions of Tolkien. So that's unfortunately got to kind of peel those out. Man of War would be fine. I just need to know what song we need to look up here. But we're going to go through a few of them. The idea is to kind of come up with a brief framework, your kind of 1 to 2 sentence type ideas of ways to inspire an adventure by the song. It doesn't necessarily have to be the lyrics, though the lyrics kind of need to be there to a certain extent. It doesn't, when I say it doesn't necessarily have to be the lyrics, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be like literally like verbatim in the lyrics, like trying to tell the story of the song. It's more the kind of imagery that it can evoke, and more importantly, an adventure that if I said, hey, this adventure was inspired by a song, and I gave you a list of songs, you should be able to pick that one out, provided you have some working knowledge of it. So let's see what I got in here. We can get cracking. I'm going to pull up the AZ lyrics for it. Hopefully you guys will be able to read it reasonably well. But hopefully I can keep these ads under control, because I don't know how many of y'all fool around on like the free lyric sites where you're, hey, what are the lyrics to this song? I mean, Jesus Christ, it's like going back to 2000 and popping in the old AOL CD and getting all the pop-ups, right when the internet got strong enough to where it could flood you with penis pills and things of that nature. Let's see here. Listen to Soul Forge Bowline. Yes. And there's a reason why it's Raceland Story to a T without overt spoilers. That's because it's Raceland Story without spoilers. it's literally about that. Same thing. Nightwish has like half an album that is nothing but Dragonlance. Let's see here. Yes, Blind Guardian Kicking College, Raceland Rose by Lake of Tears. I have not heard that one. I probably need to jump in there. Agile Monk, good to see you, man. Good to see you. I 100,000% agree with this. Reading to your children, I think, is almost a parental duty. I think that is one of those things. And to be fair, and this is not to disparage the mothers out there in the universe, but I think that is a dad thing, whether it's to daughters or to sons. I think that is a dad duty to read to your children, because it's that authority figure. You know, dad is supposed to kind of be the storyteller of the family. He's supposed to be the moralist. Your mother is supposed to teach you about empathy, is supposed to teach you how to think and feel and to think of others, is supposed to teach you how to be a human being, so to speak. Your dad is the one who tells you the stories about life and who helps build those moral foundations, which is why you see so many children of single mothers in prison, is because that is the natural place of the father. And telling stories is a big part of that. Let's see here. Yes, half of Wishmaster is indeed Dragonlance. Oops. Not the one I meant to pick up, but still a good one. Honorary nephew, about to read the Odyssey in high school. About to get what Greek gods are really like. Yeah, that's a fun one. And that just scratches the surface of how bad the Greek gods are. Jesus Christ, they're terrible. They're very human gods. It's almost like reading through Greek mythology or even Norse mythology, or basically any pagan mythology, but especially Greek and Roman mythology. In a lot of ways, that's kind of like The Boys mythology. You know, The Boys is what would people really act like if they had these crazy superpowers? Like, what would gods act like if they were just humans with that kind of power? So let's go ahead and get cracking, guys. First one that I have up here, and I started with this one because it is one which, let me find a place so I can mark it off on the list here. This is one that, to me, I've used it before, so I'm kind of cheating a little bit here. I think it is perfect for a lot of different genres. It works really well for Call of Cthulhu. It can work really well for a cyberpunk type setting. It works amazing for fantasy. It can be taken a bunch of different ways, and that's because it really is a mood song. And that is Fear of the Dark by the inestimable Iron Maiden, which to me is kind of like it's kind of the easy mode when you think about it for songs to use, which I'm going to go ahead. Let me pop over here real quick to engage with my audience, and we are going to start with a poll, and these are just going to be yes or no. Where is it? Okay. Real simple. Fear of the Dark. Is this one that should be included? I know there's going to be a whole bunch of people who are automatically voting yes, because yes, Iron's Up. We are indeed talking about Iron Maiden, and you really can't get around from that. Fun fact, my fencing instructor in college actually had 3 matches with Bruce Dickinson. So for anybody who hadn't heard the song, it's Fear of the Dark is fantastic. It starts off with a very slow melodic pace, and I believe it is a minor pentatonic. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, very nice low key. And then it breaks into, after the first chorus, it breaks into a faster part and rips through. I think that the music itself, I'm not going to play any of the music because I don't really want any copyright strikes, and God knows that Columbia and Geffen and everybody else that produces music would be coming for my skull the second I did. But let's see here. But I think Fear of the Dark, both in terms of the melody itself as well as in terms of the lyrics, fits very well into an adventure, because it gives you the slow build and then the jump in the action, the frantic pace, the anxiety, the need to escape, and then it cools you off at the very end with the hey, it's not over type thing. I'm a man who walks alone, walking down a dark road, strolling through the light begins to change. Sometimes feel a little strange and I get anxious when it's dark. All of this is, that right there in the chorus, a constant fear that something's always near. And that is, to me, if you're going to run a Halloween game, if you're going to run Call of Cthulhu, if you are going to instill the anxiety in your players that gets that sweat, that cold sweat on the back of their neck, that's what you want. That so there's a constant fear that something is always there. Yes, in dungeon delving, you could do this in dungeon delving. It is that constant, just because I left that room that I've already explored doesn't mean that something else came into it. Just as a side note, as a GM, if you've ever got a situation where you have a room that your players go through, the characters go through that room, and it has 2 or 3 other entrances that they haven't explored, you are doing a disservice if every so often they don't go back into that room and find out that something came in behind it. Something should come in behind them if they don't think to do that. Period. End of story. And that is one of those really simple tricks that can keep that anxiety up. So you go in, hey, the constant fear. And then when it breaks into the fast part, have you run your fingers down the wall, felt your neck skin crawl. These, like I said, these are all feelings. These are all things we've all felt. Hear the footsteps from behind, quicken your, you're quicken your pace. You look, you can't find it. All of this here in these lyrics, right? Watching horror films the night before, and how do we turn this into an adventure, right? To me, like I said, it's kind of easy mode. I look at this and I say, this is all about let's use a D&D context. This is all about the subtle use of powerful monsters. So, like I said, I cheated on this one. I really cheated on this one because I've used it before. 2 years ago, I did a Halloween game. I used this song as my inspiration for it. One of the first things I did is I had teleport trap. They ended up going into this mansion. They actually went to a village, and when they went to sleep, they woke up and, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert from Mac. And also spoiler alert from Angel Shadow there. So what it is, they came into this village, they went to sleep. When they went to sleep, when they got trapped in a kind of a dream dimension, it's almost like going to the Barovian, realm of dread type thing, like you would in, say, in Ravenloft. And there's a mansion there, kind of the typical haunted mansion. Very first room. First off, I had trees, like dead trees outside that were actually demons. So as they're walking through, kind of looking around, kind of scouting the outside, and they're suddenly getting attacked by these really powerful devil trees. Forgot what they're called. They're actually a monster from 3.5 that's pretty powerful. They're like 9th level creatures. And I intentionally did this with like a 10th or 11th level party because I wanted them to be powerful, and then I wanted to make them feel powerless. Which, same thing here. I wanted them to feel their neck skin crawl. I wanted them to feel the oppression of all the things they didn't know around them, because even though they were tremendously powerful, I made sure they understood that just about everything, including the trees and the fence post, could probably kill them. The first room they went into had a roulette teleport trap. Each time you triggered the trap, it teleported the person to a different location, and it would only teleport one person at a time. So no matter what, if this trap was triggered, the party was getting split. If they tried to follow after, it was getting split even further, and you have different people at different rooms. At which point you start doing things like, when you're going to introduce some kind of monster or something, you're going to give them the cue, the nails scratching across the wall, the thing they catch out of the corner of their eye with their spot check, which is brilliant because it's like, man, I got plus 22 to spot. Bam, 18. What are you going to do to me? I've got a 40 spot. It's like, okay, all you really saw is this hand disappear around the corner, scratching the wall, and bam, we're going to switch scenes and we're going to go to the other part of the party. And I'm going to let you sit over there in the corner and piss yourself waiting to find out what just disappeared around the corner while I deal with these other people over here. And so to me, Fear of the Dark screams an isolation story. That's what it screams to me. It is, how do we isolate the party? How do we do everything in the world based on hiding information from the party and making them have to think about what's around the corner? So, anybody else got any ideas on that one? Any thoughts in there? And yes, once again, another spoiler alert there. You know, I didn't even think about pulling this one in there. That one we might have to check out here in a minute. Nah, some more Ailstorm. Ailstorm has got some good stuff. I think I actually have an Ailstorm song on this list. So let's see here. If nobody has anything to say on Fear of the Dark, let's see here. Oh yeah, I mean, we got 80%. I don't know who the one person who said no Fear of the Dark was. I don't know who said that. I mean, did somebody slip? I don't know if there's a limit on these polls. All right, let's do another. I love how it's like immediately like, not me, not me, not me. I didn't do it. I'm not an idiot. I'm not the one who did this. Yes, Maiden does rule. I don't think anybody's going to admit to saying no at this point, given what's happened here. Let's see here. Not me. Wasn't me. Maiden rules. Oh man. I don't think anybody's admitting to that. Yes, you are correct. It is going to be AX7. We're going to be going to Avenge Sevenfold here. Let's scroll on up here. Let's see how bad this is. Hail to the King by Avenge Sevenfold. You want to talk about a song that is custom made, at least in my opinion, for fantasy epic adventures. Let's see what you got here. Creator or supporter in need. Let's see here. Let's say we continue to help and promote and support your ability to restore a vehicle. What are the chances you can make a donation to a TTRPG? I'm going to need it. What do you mean a donation to a TTRPG? Oh, TTRPG creator or supporter in need. I'm actually very open to that idea. That would be the kind of thing that I need to put out, that I might need to put out there, kind of not necessarily for a vote. I'm perfectly okay donating to charity type deal. That's definitely something that is very much in my wheelhouse. I'd love to give to somebody who really needs it. And to be honest, that does make life a whole hell of a lot easier for me, because running a sweepstakes is a nightmare. Because you have to give people a method to sign up to win the vehicle for free. Otherwise, you're doing an illegal lottery and gambling. So basically I have to turn around and do some nonsense where it's like you have to mail in a submission by such and such time to such and such PO box or whatever to get your free chance to win the car. And yeah, there are people out there who just hunt for that kind of thing and don't have any support here. Whereas if I donate the car and I give it to somebody who really needs it, then it just makes life really easy for me, because then it's just a donation. It's just a giveaway, and an act of charity and has nothing to do with any kind of winnings or drawings or anything. So you want to do that. I mean, what I would do there is I would say that if I do it that way, and if I did it that way, the way I would do it is somebody other than that person would have to nominate them, either via like Patreon or membership or something like that. I would have to send some, basically you would have to nominate that person, send them in by email or whatever. Nobody would be able to nominate themselves. And then I would have to be able to get in touch with that person and get some, some details and whatnot. Cause you don't want somebody who's just going to get a car. There we go. Go buy some car stuff. I will buy some car stuff. First thing I want to buy is getting the Dodge Dart down here to Alabama. That would be great. Let's see. Let's subscribe and supporters to a private and secure vote for a list of names brought to you and vote by. Yeah, and that would be something that I would be very much in favor of. And it's like, hey, if you support me, you get to vote on who gets this thing. Not a Porsche, I don't need the car. To be perfectly honest, most of what I'm doing here, you would probably, if you're like desperately in need, you would probably want to sell it and then take the cash, because I mean, a 74 Dodge Dart's a great car, and especially if it's fixed up pretty nice. It's a good, solid, reliable vehicle, but it'd be a lot better to turn around and sell it off for, say, 20 grand or something like that, or whatever you can get for it, than it would be to keep the car, because you could probably sell it and then buy like a modern, economy box or something like that. But, I'm definitely open to that. And Agile Monk coming through with 5 memberships. That is fantastic and awesome. So let's get back to the topic here. I do have some people coming in with some stuff that's already on the list. And I'm going to do this real quick. If somebody mentions something that is already on the list, I'm going to try and catch up here and just pull it as the next song so that we can go through some of the stuff there. You did have darts with the slant 6. This dart actually has the 326 V8, which is a stellar motor. I mean, it is a killer engine. They're bulletproof, and that'll be pretty fantastic. Let's see here. Said after a war that ruined the peasantry while the nobles benefited, peasant revolt. Yes, that does fit with Hail to the King. Let's run through it real quick. Hail to the King, for those who don't know, is the entire album is generally about power and power structures and power corruption. The part that always stood out to me is the change in the way this works, because these are two very subtle sides. Like, one is very overt and very, deliberate. The other is very subtle, but these are both, for those, I'm not going to get too deep into my personal politics here, but let's just say that trust for the government is not something that I have a lot of, and that the government is very insidious. They don't just come take your stuff. They take it inch by inch by inch. And then the next thing you know, you don't have anything. There's that famous Turkish proverb of the forest continued to go away because the axe convinced the trees to vote for him because his handle was also made of wood. That sort of thing. And you got the first verse where it says, death is riding into town with armor. They come to take all your rights. And then you go down into the second verse. Death is riding into town with armor. They come to grant you your rights. So on the one, they take them away, and then they turn around and they build in the idea of your rights come from what they give you, which is, just chef's kiss in the way government does things. Um, Once again, full disclosure, spoiler alert thing, I'm actually writing a short story right now that is somewhat inspired by this. But when I look at this one, you've got your, I see this as a nation that is constantly in war, constantly in war. And I look at it in a 1984 style. And this will actually help it bleed over to if you wanted to use it for like a modern setting or cyberpunk or something. So, core theme of 1984 is that the state keeps you in constant warfare. So there's always an external enemy that the populace can blame their woes on, can face, can fight, while the government basically rapes them of all their resources. Also, the another thing too is that the constant warfare gives them a place to dump their excess production. So there's constantly a need driving them to make more and more, to give more and more to the government, and then for the government to have a place to make sure there's always a shortage. So how do you have massive production but always a shortage? You constantly have wars that take away all the production. So I see Hail to the King. I see a goodly king fighting different wars, and this is the kind of thing they can send the party out on. So let's say you've got, constant warfare. It's a lawful, and it is a great community. It is kind of a, almost like the place you want to live, where they care about the people and that sort of thing. And you have your goodly king who is sending people out, right? And that's where your party starts, is constantly being sent out by this. Whether you're doing missions on Cyberpunk, whether you're doing Call of Cthulhu style adventures, which Call of Cthulhu is a little off on this one, but you could use a cult or a corruption by an elder being or something like that to play into this with Call of Cthulhu, in my opinion. But what you have is that good entity that is sending the party out. Now, fantasy, right away, here's your guy. Go out and do this. It's always something to help the effort. It's always something to protect people. It's always something to save this one area. It's always something to recover something. And then you have the sons or the brothers or whatnot, and you don't make them overtly evil, okay? In fact, I would almost say you want them to be like a friend of the party. Maybe even they go out with them a few times on some missions. They are a comrade in arms. And they take over at some point. And you subtly change things as the party leaves and comes back, leaves and comes back. And eventually the party leaves on some grand mission. And when they come back to the world that they don't, the nation they don't recognize. They come back to a bunch of orphan children because they're orphans of war. There's so many people who have been killed. They come back to the police state. If you've ever seen the Paradise Lost episode of Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, where they got the Federation soldiers in all the streets and whatnot because they're so afraid of the Dominion. You've got that thing. And you have this person that you knew was the good person, was the great king or something, has been crushed under the weight, has been corrupted by the power he has, crushed under the weight of what he was always fighting, and taken those rights away for safety, for the good of everybody, and is now only bringing them back. I see that as being the perfect setup for a long-term campaign, especially in something like D&D. Let's see here. It's the only one thing they're very good for. That's an Aerosmith song. Not sure if it's a great D&D campaign. Let's see here. We, the PCs, trying to stabilize the kingdom. Yes, that is something that could happen. That is something that could happen both before and after. You could have the PCs being set out to, take care of rebel factions, people trying to take away, resources, people trying to not contribute, people trying to undermine the authority, and diverting things away from protecting from the hordes from outside. Let's see here. Yes, yes, he is definitely he is. He told me so in a message that he scribbled on the beach. No, they don't. They absolutely do not. They do not come from government. That is actually the hallmark of America, and what makes us special is that we're the only country in the history of humankind that acknowledges that our rights do not come from government. Let's see here. Deep government, 3-letter agency. It doesn't matter what alphabet soup, they're all bad. Never trust your government regardless of your politics. Yeah, because they're not trustworthy. Peasants lost their land while their husbands and sons bled and died, being on the side of the nobles, doing your best to assuage public revolt, whilst the next rulers to be crowned. That fits, once to me, very perfectly within what I was saying. I think that's a good way to work with that one. Yes, power corrupts. All power corrupts. All governments have been corrupt since the inception of government. Who was it that said that? Was it Reagan who once said that politics is the second oldest profession in the world and it bears a striking resemblance to the first? ATF is my favorite band. All right, I should know them because ATF does sound familiar. That I should know. I should know who that is. Other than the fact that BATF is the worst band on the planet, and they are definitely not icons of freedom or constitutionality. Here we go. Yep, Zed definitely pumping in the topic the topic commentary, which also had an internal conspiracy how whether the prince or princess would be seated. Representative of an allied nation interested in restoring stability there. These are all things that fit right in there too. A whole season of B5. You know what? We might add this one in here. Rush trees. Tell you what, let me scroll up here and find our first not on the list, or my first on the list song. We'll call "Hail to the King" to the close here. Something tells me everybody's going to be okay on that one. We had some participation on that. It has some great themes. I'm a big believer that if you can, you don't necessarily need to weave modern politics and that sort of thing into your games. But if you can weave the themes, those overarching themes that are timeless into them, that's killer right there. Let's see here. Holy Diver is 100,000% on the list. So we will we'll go right there. Let's go to Holy Diver, since Holy Diver. I mean, how could you have a list like this without Holy Diver? All right. How could you have a list like this without how could you have a list like this without Dio? I mean, let's just be honest here. Ronnie James, it's kind of like Uriah Heep. All right. If you know anything about Uriah Heep, it's like just basically post the whole catalog there. Rainbow in the Dark, one of my favorite songs to play on guitar. Love to sit there and belt out that tune. Not sure exactly how I would turn it into a D&D adventure or a TTRPG adventure, but hey, might work. So we'll go into Holy Diver. Let me pop over here real quick and end this. Oh, Jesus. 100%. There is no question. we're all about throwing in the I don't even know why I'm putting Holy Diver up here. I mean, I know it's 100% yes. It's basically D&D adventure that got turned into a song. But Hail to the King, definitely a walk in the park, easy one there. So let's see here. Are you Star of the Masquerade, my friend? Yep, Sign of the Southern Cross. I mean, let's come on, man. It's Dio. I mean, let's just put up entire albums here. We're just staying in easy mode right now. We haven't even gotten any hard ones. I will tell you where I think that Holy Diver is going to be difficult, because Holy Diver has so much explicit generic fantasy motifs. Shiny diamond, the tiger, just basically, you're a soul survivor, the soul's clean, everything that's in there. Holy Diver is kind of custom made for this. To me, Holy Diver is a Paragon party in a corrupt world. I think this, ironically, because it is clearly just a straight up fantasy story, it's the Paladin in hell made into a song for those of us who remember the old first edition D&D art. But think about this in terms of like a cyberpunk adventure. And what does everybody think about thinking of this as a cyberpunk adventure? Because to me, you look at cyberpunk, what are the themes of cyberpunk? The world is shit, right? Everybody is just different shades of, it is the ultimate, everything is different shades of gray world. It is, everybody is surviving to get by. Everything is corrupt. You have access to everything you need, but everything else is just far beyond your reach for this small group of elites. So you have what is a largely immoral world, right? Very materialistic, very hedonistic. We're looking to survive and get our tiny piece of the pie. It's a very selfish genre, right? So what happens when you have that paragon virtue crowd? Those people who want to be good, those people who want to bring something beyond humanity back into this world where we're, chopping off our arms and legs to make them better. Not sure I'm going to go with Rage Against the Machine. Rage, there's a lot of performative, protest in Rage. They kind of they did you the same way that oh my god, D. Snyder from Twisted Sister did us all. He went from "we're not going to take it" to "bend over and take it" the second that stupid jab came out for the China virus. Same thing with Rage Against the Machines. They Rage Against the Machine used to stand up and say, they went on BBC and got in trouble for not censoring themselves. Fuck you, don't do what they tell you. And it's like, fuck you, you're going to do what I tell you. All of a sudden, do what they tell you, bend over, take it from the government. I mean, Prodigy, it depends on how high you are. You can make all kinds of cool stuff out of a Prodigy song if you imbibed in enough hallucinogenic substances. And we all know the greatest Chicano rap on the planet is Rhiannon by Fleetwood Mac. If you haven't seen the Fleetwood Mac Chicano, you don't know what you're missing. Hold on a second. Maybe I can get away with showing that one. Let's see here. Do a little aside real quick. I'm seeing the guy who does it. Why am I having so much trouble getting this video pulled up? Well, never mind. I'm not going to waste too much time on that. There's a great video out there of a good old fashioned Mexican gangster, uh, basically doing the gangster walk down the side of the hood to Fleetwood Mac, and it fits perfect. It's awesome. So yeah, Holy Diver. Let's see if we got some commentary on Bureau of do 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 do. Mm. Oh yeah, ain't no rest for the wicked. That definitely comes to time there. I could have swore I had somebody up here who had something to say about using this as in cyberpunk. That's really the big thing is like I think this is a cyberpunk invention, a cyberpunk song across the board. Even though it's clearly you easily get there, and I'd say the difficult thing is how do you make this into something like an investigative game? How do you make this into something like a Call of Cthulhu? Because this is about confronting the evil. This is about going down into hell and fighting it. And that fits with cyberpunk because the whole world is hell. That fits with fantasy because that's a goal of your paladin and your holy warriors. That doesn't really fit with Call of Cthulhu. I mean, you start talking about your elder gods and whatnot, you start getting down into trying to fight them head on, and that's a great way to get your ass whipped. Be a fun one there. I think with like I said, Holy Diver to me, I'm thinking that I am putting my party up again. I'm going hardcore cyberpunk, and I am putting my party up against something that doesn't involve any money. It doesn't involve any reward. Or if there is a reward, they're using it to get some other Han Solo type character to play along and to go with them. It's about something that improves the world for better or for worse, or even better, tries to improve the world in what is clearly a losing battle. Because I don't know about you, but to me, when I think Paragon Virtue, when I think best top of the line, like true good hero, the one that goes out and who fights for what's right, knowing that he's going to lose, is the one you go with. Not sure you could go with Kashmir. Kashmir's a great song, but it definitely breaks the rules for this particular situation because Kashmir is about the conflict in Kashmir between India and Pakistan. So I'm not sure that would necessarily fit. Let's see here. Who's somebody else who threw something up here that is on the list? All right. Somebody's in trouble. Somebody's in trouble. We got no votes. We got no votes on Holy Diver. Y'all are going to eviscerate some of the ones that are a little bit more esoteric here. You think anything by Dio would be like an automatic pick. I can only think that somebody would be saying, no, we're not going to put those on there because we don't want the easy stuff. We want the cool stuff that's a little bit harder to figure out. We want something that's beyond the normal that everybody doesn't think about. That's the only thing I can think of why you would say no. Let's see here. I think I said I promised I would do Trees by Rush next, even though it is not on the list. So this will be the first one that comes in from off the list. There you go. They're coming for you. The torches and pitchforks come out for the no votes. Let's see. Let's go up here and let's type in Trees and see how many ads we get. Hey, look, an ad for King of the Hill. That's Radiohead. Aha, the Trees Rush. There we go. All right, this is short. Let's read through it. There's unrest in the forest. There's trouble with the trees. The maples want more sunlight, and the oaks ignore their pleas. Trouble with the maples, they're quite convinced they're right. Oaks are just too lofty. They grab up all the light. Oaks, their feelings, it's like they're made. They wonder why the maples can't be happy in their shade. Trouble in the forest, all the creatures have fled. The maples scream oppression. The oaks just shake their head. Maples form a union, demand equal rights. Oaks are just too greedy. We'll make them give us light. There's no more oak oppression. They passed a noble law. All trees kept equal by hatchet and the saw. Okay. So we have quite clear political implications in here. I would have to do a little bit more digging to see what Rush is saying, but I know what I can pretty much take from it. Yeah, you gotta love some Blue Oyster Cult. As a matter of fact, I believe there is a Blue Oyster Cult song that was on the list but got struck because it is unfortunately a I think it's Mistress of the Salmon Salt, if I'm not mistaken, is actually inspired by a book. Let's see here. So yeah, this is clearly a class struggle, in a way, a class struggle thing, but I see this as regardless of what genre you put it in, what I see is the party starting off in a conflict between two key parts of a civilization or an organization or a group. All right. You can be at the haves and the have-nots, the nobles and the peasants. You can be the reds and the whites, the blues and the grays, whatever you want to be. They can be equal. They can be, just different philosophies. They can be, different social strata, whatever you got. But you have something where you clearly have both sides are right and both sides are wrong. Party can take its cues. I mean, this is where you 100,000% do not go, yeah, Dan, I'm going to go ahead and put the poll up. I know you're voting no. So you're 100% like, this is where you go total sandbox. The party can try and find the middle ground and say, hey, look, nobody's right here. We need to come together. They can try to be a unifying force, find common ground. They can side with side A. They can side with side B. And it's clearly set up to where there's not really a wrong choice. However, what comes in from the outside is, if there is no unity, they're getting overrun. And the party is having, this is key, the party is not stopping the society from being overrun. Okay? I don't know how I would have to go more literal with this to do like a one shot or to do like a quick module. But campaign wise, say they take the middle ground and they're successful at kind of being a unifying force. Now they have a chance to keep the people coming from outside. And they can have that big battle, that big mass war campaign. But if they pick one side or the other, if they don't completely eradicate the other side, consolidate power to stand up, now, like, if the fight is still going on within this outside force comes in, the party can't stop it. And they have to now adventure and act within the ever-changing world of them being overrun by the hordes or whatever's coming in. To go straight adventure type deal and go more literal with this, we probably are going with the gay druid adventure next, or as Till says, evil ants. And then you can see this being elves against humans. Elves against humans would be a good one for this. I probably ought to leave these up there for just a little bit longer. So yeah, they could probably be up there. I do like that, especially if it's like a blended society. Hey, Mike, what's going on, man? Um, I would like to see this as kind of a blended society type deal, to be perfectly honest. Um, if I'm going one, you can go super literal with the lyrics, both fantasy and kind of the more cyberpunk or modern aspect. You can make this some kind of workers' rights fight if you wanted to go commie with it. You could be on the corpo side or whatnot and have some kind of make it happen, make it not happen. You could have the orcs coming in after elves and humans in the forest, or two different tribes of elves in the forest, and then the orcs come in, and you can make this into kind of a single adventure. The thing that I'm the thing that I'm struggling with is because the way it has that flow, that chop in the middle, where it goes from these two sides against each other to something coming in from to some other thing coming in to overwhelm it, makes it a little bit more difficult for a single adventure or a single module type deal. And I think that's largely because what you end up getting with there is almost a situation where the players would feel like they got cheated, because no matter what they did in the adventure, oh, here comes the outside force that wipes everything out. Doesn't matter what you did, this is the ending. You can use that to teach a lesson to your players about how just because you did something doesn't mean it meant shit. But and is that really what we want to do to our players? I think most of us here probably have players who don't need those kind of lessons. They already know it, and that just kind of makes you a jerk to do it to them. Let's see here. Song makes me think of when I would fight with my siblings growing up, and then the parents would come in and neither of us would get what we wanted. Yeah. Yes, it probably that is very apropos. Yeah, that is what we got here. Death, yeah. Enemies without massing up. Like that interpretation too. This, of course, in response to orcs massing their forces to wipe them out. Going back to the uh, elves versus human type deal. Yeah, and I think that definitely fits. Especially, you can make it a mini campaign, a 3 or 4 adventure module, like maybe an adventure module that's designed to take 5 to 10 sessions, mini campaign, or a full campaign. I'm just struggling with how to structure this into single adventure, not necessarily one shot, but like you could do it in one shot if you really just focused on what you were doing, knocked everything out, played for 8 hours type deal. I don't know. Let's see there. I'm gonna pick another one off the list here. Let's take a look at how the trees did in their poll. And 60% by far are least successful so far. Let's see here. Let's pull one off of my list here real quick. Here we go. We're going to go with one that a lot of people actually, we're going to go with one where the music might be hated, even though I actually love this song. And I will fight people over the fact that Load and Reload are both fantastic albums. Though I do know a lot of people who, no more Calico sold out and cut their hair. Load of shit. I like Load. I think Load's a good album. It's just more blues rock than it is metal. It's definitely not thrash. But we are going to call this, talk about Hero of the Day by Metallica. I think this is a fantastic adventurer song. Screams D&D to me. Screams D&D. Screams campaign ending. And I really do like the motif of it. Until It Sleeps is a fantastic song. It really is. That is a great song. Mama Said is another underrated classic there. I would also say Outlaw Torn. I always like The Memory Remains and Fixer. Those are all fantastic songs. And then Hero of the Day is I love Hero of the Day. I think Hero of the Day is an amazing, very good blues metal riff. Let's see here. Am I looking to turn a song into a one shot? I don't know what I'm really doing. Really, I'm just having fun. But let's say I wanted to turn this into a project. What I would want to do is say get 7 to 10 songs. 7 to 10 songs that I could then organize as TTRPG the album and draft them into a series of 7 to 10 adventures that make a campaign. Think about it like a Pink Floyd album, because it doesn't matter if you're looking at Dark Side of the Moon or if you're looking at The Wall or if you're looking at Model. Pink Floyd was a storytelling band. If you listen to their albums front to back, they tell a story. I don't see why you couldn't do that by taking these songs, putting them all together, and making a pre-built campaign, 7 to 10, built around that album of these songs. So I guess you wouldn't necessarily call them one shots, but I would say that you would want to take each song and make it a contained adventure, like a single contained, where it develops into a single contained narrative. Whether that, obviously the narrative would vary from group to group because the players would create that within the framework of the adventure, but you don't want each one to be like a 9 adventure campaign. You would want them all to be preferably somewhere between 1 and at most 5 sessions. Let's see here. So yes, Kill Ride, yeah, they were absolutely fantastic. I don't know. I think Injustice for All was absolutely amazing. I would say this is my 100% opinion when it comes to Metallica. Every album they have ever put out is a solid rock to metal album. They went from thrash, they grew up and turned into kind of a blues metal, and then went kind of back to a more mature blues thrash sound. Saint Anger is probably the only album that I would say is not a solid album. It's too chaotic. There's too much stuff going on. It doesn't jive well. The members of the band did not musically like. That is the album where they were all at different points in their life and did not put in. Each one was putting in something different and it just didn't work right. But I would say that I don't think they put out a single album that's not solid. And to be honest with me, Kill 'Em All is one of their weaker albums. It gets a lot of praise because it was their first. It brought them to the scene. It's got some just killer thrash anthems. It really is the genesis of thrash metal. And let's not pretend here that when we say the big four, what we really mean is Metallica and those other three. Megadeth is the Wish Metallica. It is Timu Metallica. Slayer is way too full of itself and is way more about yelling and way less about music. And Anthrax is, everybody puts Anthrax fourth. It's the least thrash of the thrash. Metallica's here, everybody else down here when it comes to the big four for thrash metal. But Kill 'Em All, I think, is probably one of their weaker albums overall. Ride the Lightning is a masterpiece. Master of Puppets is a masterpiece. I think Injustice for All is a masterpiece. I think Load and Reload are a truly they're a right-hand turn from the Black Album, but they are peak of a different style. And then I think I really did like Death Magnetic. I think Death Magnetic was fantastic. Really good return to a thrash sound. And I think Hero of the Day, I think, is lyrically one of their better songs. Yes, mini campaign. Let's see here. I'll hit some of these other Metallica. I'll go through these Metallica related comments real quick, and we'll get to Hero of the Day. Oops, not the one I meant to go to, but yes, I think Ride the Lightning was pretty peak. I don't think Kill 'Em All was. Unforgiven 2 is a PC seeking redemption song, but can't come to trust others yet. It really is. Unforgiven, Unforgiven 2, and Unforgiven 3 actually do make their own little. You could take those three and build a character arc out of them. I wouldn't necessarily want to do a D&D campaign out of them, mainly because a major failing that a lot of people have when they try to structure stories for a campaign is they forget that you have 4 to 6 main players, 4 to 6 main characters in your D&D campaign. You don't have 1 or 2 main characters that are the true focus with supporting characters. You have all of them are a main character in a way. So how are you going to put every last one of them on the exact same character arc and have it not be dull and boring or worse, railroaded? Let's see here. Like I said, I wouldn't call it trash. Compared to the rest of Metallica, it is absolutely trash. If you are comparing it to everything else they put out, trash. If you're comparing it to metal albums as a whole, it's okay. Especially given when it came out was the era of new metal, and a lot of new metal is just flat out garbage. Justice came out as high school, saw me. Jeez, I'm jealous as hell that you saw them in the 80s. Justice is great. And really, if you want to show somebody, if somebody wants to sit here and talk about how Lars is not a great drummer, just challenge them to have somebody play any of 4 or 5 tracks off Justice and then come back and talk to us. If you can belt out Dyer's Eve on the drums or Blackened on the drums, then you can sit here and tell me about how Lars is not a great drummer. Because I mean, just the raw speed that some of the double bass in Justice has is off the charts. Slayer is cringe. Fun story about Anthrax. My wife almost got crushed to death at an Anthrax show. She grew up in the Chicagoland area. She went to Ozfest in Tinley Park and was right up front. Like she got to Anthrax before they came on stage and was like right at the very front and about got crushed against the guardrail and had to be pulled over the guardrail by the security. Let's see here. Yes, those are great. Blitzkrieg, Four Horsemen, great songs. They kill. Fade to Black is just amazing. Just amazing. Judgment is based on whether I would hit skip on a song. I've never skipped a song from the first 3. I have from Justice, a Black Album, a lot of Death Magnetic, the whole same album. That's not a bad metric when it comes to a solid album. It's one of the reasons why I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan, because Appetite for Destruction, cover to cover. Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, cover to cover. Most of the Spaghetti Incident. Lies, cover to cover. Until they hit Chinese Democracy, Guns N' Roses was a listen on repeat, cover to cover every single time. They were just amazing. Yeah, that's not a bad judgment to have. That's if you want to use that as a metric, it's a good one. So, really, yeah, tell me what year it is. I'll figure it out. Okay, so no, she does not play TTRPGs. As a matter of fact, she got me this shirt because she refers to anytime I go to play D&D as going to play nerd games, and it would not be out of character for her to bust into my office here and yell nerds like Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds. So let's talk Hero of the Day. The song itself is actually about being on tour and about basically always being out and looking for heroes outside and looking for heroes outside of the outside of your normal sphere and forgetting that you have heroes right there at home. It's almost it's kind of funny, especially given James Hetfield's history, that it's almost like an ode to respecting your parents, because it's the general idea is that you're constantly looking for that hero, that light to guide you from outside, and you're always forgetting that there's one right there at home. And to me, a part of tabletop role playing games, especially games like Dungeons and Dragons, where you are adventuring far out into the world, I think a massive part that is constantly missed from the TTRPG scene, and really, to be honest, I think is actually missed a lot from the I think it's missed a lot from like modern fantasy too, because the stories end, and that's kind of where they end. Unlike, say, Lord of the Rings, where you have the scouring of the Shire and then returning, you have entire chapters, an entire chunk, probably a third of Return of the King, is about them going home. And we forget about that in our TTRPGs. We forget about going back home and returning to where we were. So for me, Hero of the Day, I'm not sure I could make. If I made an adventure out of Hero of the Day, it would be the tail end of a campaign. But I would say you take this song and you play it into the back end of not every adventure, but every major adventure segment in your campaign. When they've been out, when they've been fighting, this is them going back to the tavern they started at. This is them going back to the town they started at, not to, quote, turn in quests or to get rewards, but this is literally the we can't wait to get back there. We've been gone for years. To step off and a little bro SR praise here. This is a place where timekeeping, strict timekeeping, can really enhance your game. Now, I'm not talking one-to-one time and worrying about the downtime aspect of it, but I'm talking about keeping a strict calendar in your campaign, which is really something you should be doing if you're running a cohesive campaign. You say, and we'll just use the regular Gregorian calendar to make this easy. January, February, March, April, May, June, blah, 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 right? Adventure starts on January 1st. And you're keeping track of the man. It takes you 5 days to go here. It takes you 3 days to go here. You spent 2 years, two days in this dungeon. You spent a month in this dungeon. You went, on a journey that took you months to get over here, to get over there. And then you continue to make sure that the changing seasons, and there you go, your 10 days or whatever calendar you use, doesn't really matter. But have they been, it's like, hey, they've been away from home for years, right? Get them to go back home for a reason. Build that sense of longing to return in those characters, and then give them the differences when they get there. And if you want to do this as an adventure, I say this is a situation where the party has gone out, maybe on a different adventure, and they're away from home, and then something comes in that prevents them from being able to get home. And the adventure turns into if I was just walking in a straight line, it would take me a couple of weeks to get back to the village I'm from. But because, kind of like the Odyssey that was mentioned earlier, because of whatever reasons, now the party has to go under the mountain, has to go through the old dwarven caves, has to visit the mega dungeon, has to do whatever it is to get back home. And every single session, every single adventure has to be about getting back home. I don't know. What does everybody else think about that? What does everybody think? What's the best way to use this here? While y'all are coming up with some of your own ideas, I'm going to go ahead and look at some more concert reliving here in the chat. Yeah, I want to go see GNR. I'm a little worried about it just because we're talking about Axl Rose, and Axl Rose used to sing in 8 octaves, and now he probably sings in 5. But to be honest, other than the super high energy, if you look at their live stuff, Guns N' Roses was musically always better in the studio. Because, you know, with Axl running all over the place and jumping all over everything, even when he was in his 20s, he would be out of breath half the time and not be, you know, carrying the same kind of notes and whatnot that he did in the studio. Saw him back in the 90s. I don't know. Did you see him set anything on fire, flip any cars over, or piss anybody off? As if you saw GNR and Metallica in the 90s, that would be the infamous tour where Hetfield got burned on like the second song they played, had to pull Metallica off stage because of the pyro. And then Axl Rose took 30 minutes to come out, sing half a song, throw his microphone down, and go back inside and say his throat hurt in Montreal. Good sense of humor. Saying I got a good sense of humor. I'm assuming this has to be in response to the either the Ulrich was a fantastic drummer or the Bee Gees best death metal band ever, Fight Me. I'm serious. Ulrich is a fantastic drummer. He is. He gets a lot of shit, and he gets a lot of shit because he stood up for artists to get their damn money. And it's amazing how many people tried to call him some kind of bastard prick and whatnot who now all agree with him. You want to talk about uniting different clans? All of a sudden, hip hop and metal were like hand in hand. Because Dr. Dre and Eminem were right over there, like, "Hey, quit stealing our shit." And thing that a lot of people forget about that whole Napster nonsense, what they were pissed off about was not people downloading Kill 'Em All. You know, downloading Seek and Destroy for your ringtone was not what was pissing Metallica off, and not what brought on their lawsuit. What pissed them off is I Disappear, which is a pretty cool song that was for Mission Impossible 2. It was getting leaked out and played on the radio through Napster before they'd even finished the song. And they were pissed because people were out there playing a song. Oh, this is Metallica and stuff. And they're like, this is not a product we wanted to put out yet. It wasn't ready. And it's not as good as we wanted it to be. And you basically stole it before we ever got a chance to put it out. Let's see here. There's a lot of people who are making everybody feel their age here, man. Let's see here. I can agree with that. That I'm very much in line with that. Hero of the Day probably needs to be the last song on the album if you make a TTRPG album, just because, let's face it, Hero of the Day is it's an ending. It's an ending. That's there's no doubt about that. Yeah, Axl wasn't great live. I mean, it's kind of hard to, you know, carry those kind of notes and hit those kind of octaves and stuff when you're running around like a crackhead or whatever he happened to be on at that point in time. And then he's such a prima donna. It's really not great when he decides to throw a microphone at the bass drum and stomp off stage because his earpiece isn't right. Yes. She does. She seems to think she has a great sense of humor. She laughs every time she tells a joke. There were police deputies from everywhere. Yes, I'll bet there were. I mean, you're as likely to get a rock show as you are to get a riot at a GNR show. I don't think that's changed much. So let's see here. Let's call in the poll. We got 80% saying that Hero of the Day belongs on our list as another big one. Let's see here. Let's go up the list here, see if we've got a good song to pull out of here, or if we want to pull another one off of the list here. I can't do Civil War because Civil War references way too many actual whatever they're called, too many actual real world events. It kind of breaks the rules a little bit of our little thing here. Ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. Nah, let's see here. Gwar. You know what? We're gonna go one step below Gwar. I got one that I can pull off of the list here. Um, yes, it breaks the rules I set. That's my channel. Make your own channel if you want to put Civil War on your album. We will go. Let's see here. I can go Uriah Heep. No, I said we're gonna go a step down. We're gonna go with like discount. All right. Well, actually, I'll put it up to you guys. Let's just throw a vote here in chat, guys. It's either going to be GNR, so Guns N' Roses. It's going to be Uriah Heep, or it's going to be what I am referring to as discount Gwar. So I'm gonna give that a minute for y'all to throw something there in chat, and we're gonna pick one of those. I got a song for each one. I'm not gonna tell you who Discount Gwar is because I really do actually like the band and as a band itself, but I think calling them Discount Gwar is kind of funny and slightly accurate. I feel like I spent more time talking about in the Metallica song talking about GNR. Come on, guys, don't be like that. Don't be like that. It's really about gotta know who Discount Gore is. It looks like we're gonna be Discount Gore just because I didn't tell you who the band was. Let's see here. Let me go over here and I guess I can pick an appropriate song. Do. Run the risk of run the risk. I think I might even run the risk here of getting a copyright strike here. Where's an actual video? That's what we. There we go. There's the official video. Get this past the. Okay. So let's pull down this and let's see here. Let me see if I can. I need to add a different share screen here. Because it looks like our winner is going to be, yeah, fair use. Everybody yell fair use. All right, guys, this is just to be the band. Okay, this is just so that we know what the band here is for our song. Not so we not the song we're gonna pick. All right, that's enough of that before I end up getting in trouble here. That's enough of that right there. So would I. I would definitely go see Wasp tomorrow. So let's see here. We're going to pull up our lyrics. Oh my god, I've played Wasp. You know what? I think I can die happy now. I've played Wasp on my channel. Whether or not I got away with it or not, I guess we'll find out. So we're gonna go ahead and throw Hellion into the chat for our poll here. Let's see. Because Hellion is indeed on the list. Let's see here. Watch them play at a place. Drive to Chattanooga. That ain't too far from me. I can get to Chattanooga in a couple hours. Blackie wins. Got some Wasp fans out here. I don't want to hear anybody griping about, like, you know, great musical acts and, you know, skill and that sort of thing. Because I love me some Wasp, but let's not pretend that Wasp is some, you know, virtuoso. You know, this ain't Stevie Ray Vaughan and Randy Rhoads playing with Slash Axel and Freddie Mercury with John Bonham on the drums. If you typed that, yeah, I might have to like block you from like I said, this right here, you'd probably you'd have to get muted for like 5 minutes just out of principle. That we really would have to. Can't be having no Nickelback come up here. About an hour from Chattanooga, only 3. How are you an hour from Chattanooga and 3 hours from Huntsville? That one shocks me right there. I didn't know there was a way to be 3 hours from Huntsville and only an hour from Chattanooga, because it's only about an hour from Chattanooga to Huntsville. Yes, Widowmaker is a great song, but we are not looking at Widowmaker. We are looking at the Hellhound with hot leather on your legs, the smoking powder keg, Hellbound, riding on Hades rails, the devil's hellion and child. Now, granted, this song is technically about alcoholism and the rock and roll lifestyle and a bunch of other stuff. It depends on I-24. Yeah, I guess sometimes the trip from South Houston to Central Houston is like 6 hours. So what do we got here? What's the way to go with Hellion? I think Hellion for D&D is pretty simple. If you want to go low level, it's basically I'm seeing some kind of cleric that gets his hands on something that allows him to bring in the fiendish creatures. Maybe some fiendish animal. You know, basically, maybe he's bringing in hellhounds. Maybe he's bringing in some other minor devils or minor fiendish creatures and whatnot to support his evil ends and whatnot. But it's kind of beyond his power level itself. So it starts corrupting nature around his area. Fiendish creatures, trees that are dying strangely, turning into monsters, that sort of thing. This is the sort of thing that starts bringing in the party. Now you've got a situation where you're going in to investigate, going in to find out what the problem is. There's a hair on my hat. Going into whatever the situation may be, and it's getting worse and worse as whatever he's using to summon these creatures is corrupting, you know, whatever, say, tower or fortress or bandit hideout or whatever he had. Basically, you're getting more and more corrupt as you get closer to it. And that's where you find the situation where whatever he's using to summon these creatures has taken him over. He's now it's draining his life force to continue pumping out more and more powerful entities. I believe that that sort of thing could be scaled pretty easy, because you could be starting with like hellhounds and stuff like that and ending with, barb devil or something of that nature for like your mid 6, 7, 8 level. You could be starting with, fiendish creatures and ending with like your hellhounds and stuff like that for your low level, first, second, third level, that sort of thing. And you could be bringing in really powerful. You could have a Baylor or a pit fiend at the end if you want to go, 15, 16, 17, 18 level. I think you can actually play this one very easily in the cyberpunk setting, since the song itself is actually about kind of the rock and roll lifestyle. I could see this being where you could do it multi-session, you could do it multi-adventure, you could do it a single adventure, but you could do this one would do very easy for multi-adventure, where you start giving them stuff. You start giving them simple missions and stuff. You start giving, especially if you can give them slightly, not overly, because then you players get tipped off. You give them slightly outsized rewards. Give them access to that club that you really need to be a high-end corpo to get to. Give them access to those really good designer drugs, those great weapons, that sort of thing. Make them go a little too far, a little too fast, and become the bought souls of that corporation. And then the adventure turns into them fighting against that corporation. I think that would be a good way to use Hellion. I don't know what's everybody think about that. Yes, absolutely. Good old summoner on the when we look at the D&D side of things. Very much so. Cleric, necromancer, really doesn't matter. It can be some kind of wizard or something. I think the idea is to tap on the fantasy side of things, is to tap the Sorcerer's Apprentice vibe, where it's, Mickey Mouse has picked up the spell book that he doesn't really understand, and it's going beyond what he can do. You could actually parlay that into cyberpunk as well, where you end up with some kind of like the cyberpunk version of a cursed item, where you end up think about the Edge Runners anime that came out on Netflix, where the cyber psychosis is real. It's not just the cyber psychosis, it's also the outsized impact of that cyberware and that cyberware addiction on that character, or on that in that situation. I would put that as an NPC. And just like we talked about with a little bit earlier, you make this with Hail to the King. Put this on an NPC that you see go further and further. Maybe every mission has 2 or 3 parts. And whatever part the party chooses, he chooses a different one. And you start to see him go out of control, get a little bit further. Obviously, you could start at the very end if you wanted to run it one shot, or if you wanted it to be the single mission. But I think that would work well for our for Cyberpunk. Let's see here. Any other comments on here? Other than just Mac, pointing out that this is basically Necronomicon type stuff. Absolutely. Necronomicon, or Enchanted Mirror, and whatever the artifact might be. It could be just about anything. It's all about it being beyond the control of the person that you go up against. That's really the truth of it to me. So let's see here. What do we got? Ending the poll on Hellion. Man, we got a hater in here. We got somebody in here who votes no on everything. That's what I'm chalking this up to, a hater. There is a hater out here. There is a hater. Doesn't like any of these songs. Pull this one from the list. Give them their due, since we've talked about them so much. No, not Savage Garden. That ain't what we're looking for. Guns and Roses. The Garden. Boy, doesn't that right there fit for both the previous idea and this one. There we go. Oh, look at that. Dan has excuses. Clicking back window to regain focus. I accidentally voted no on WASP. This is actually exactly what I was thinking with the Garden. This is going to sound one note or repetitive, but if you're going cyberpunk or if you're going modern if you're going cyberpunk with the Garden, you're hitting exactly what I was just talking about. This is the cyberpunk story where the party gets everything and they have to fight through the drug haze. They get the bad drugs. I would probably do that. Let's hit them with the let's say that there's RoboCop 2 where they had the nuke, the drug that was taking over everybody in the ghetto, and that the guy was actually using to kind of take over the entire city. Do the same thing. It's like, hey, your favorite hangouts, your rocker boys, the club your rocker boy always plays at and everything. Maybe a member of his band that's not part of the party or something is getting infected by this crazy drug that's causing all this strange, making people disappear, people acting weirder than they normally should, even on regular drugs, and lead the edge runners, lead your group to finding the area where, the Garden, where all these people have been brought in, and it turns out they're being experimented on by some kind of mega corporation or something of that nature. And that this drug has some kind of mind control element to it. It's infected with nano machines or something of that nature. Yes, absolutely. Maybe more dark conspiracy than cyberpunk, a bit Lovecraftian. That was where I was going next, is Call of Cthulhu. You want to talk about an easy flip the switch change? I'm talking, it's a cult. Why does everybody want to hang out with these people? Why do they want to be in this crazy man's utopia? You get lost, they can show you the way. You may feel all alone. Don't worry about it. We got your friends here. Bring you into this craziness. And now all of a sudden you start, confuse the hell out of your players. What are we doing here? And then when they're finally like, yeah, let them do that. Let them bring them in, draw them into some role play. And then when they're like, okay, cool, we're going to go do some more investigation back to our lives. Now they can't get out. And they have to figure out reality warping, that sort of thing. This is where you bring in your elder god. And it's like, man, you didn't realize that you had just crossed into a place where the court of Yog-Sothoth is bleeding over into the real world. And that's where you put in your mystery of how we get out of the Garden. I think that's a Lovecraftian way to do it. Let's see here. Confusing garden-like maze that's enchanted in shifts. Perhaps the will of Fae or evil druids. That is a way to definitely take it into the realm of fantasy. And I think, honestly, even though this song has nothing to do with fantasy, has absolutely nothing to do with any kind of adventure or high-minded ideals, it's literally just about kind of getting lost in the haze of growing up and experiences and temptations of the world and that sort of thing. I think it fits all three genres pretty well. Fantasy, you just make it magic. Cyberpunk, you make it drugs. Fantasy, you make it magic. Call of Cthulhu, you make it Yog-Sothoth. But you use basically the same thing. You trap the players here one way or another. Whatever lures them in, them getting out becomes the adventure. So everybody think on that one. Which actually, did I put this one up for a vote? I don't think I did. Let me make sure I get this in here. See here, start my poll. Give y'all a chance to vote on this and a chance to tell me what you think. Let's see what we got in here in terms of ideas. Fey Lord's eldest, more like the Fey of European folklore. It hits on Lovecraftian horror, but also parental horror. Yeah, fairies and stuff. There's a reason why to this day the Irish still build around roads around fairy circles. Is because fairies exist there to screw with people. They're not cutesy little happy fun things that people love, and it's fun, happy, sing, put a crown of flowers on, smoke a whole bunch of pot, and sing about hating war. That's not that's not how that happens. They seriously screw with people. Who is the garden by? There you go, my friend. Use your illusion. Just finished the first Monster Hunter in International. I have not actually read that, but that might be worth checking out. Gotta love a little elder. Gotta love a little eldritch horror, some elder gods, a little Lovecraftian stuff. I think the garden fits it very well. Yeah, I have like the last thing that even sounds remotely like Axel's voice. My range is about his range was 7.5 to 8 octaves, if I remember. Mine's like 7.5 to 8 versions of the same note. To the Kai. But I do greatly appreciate it, my friend. Couple bucks going towards there. Got me a spark plug. So, World of Darkness got to fail a lot better. Well, I mean, the thing about World of Darkness is World of Darkness always put the story before the game. That's just kind of how there is to it. Is they were always way more about atmosphere, way more about story. It's a tragedy. Very much so. Way more about what's in the books than what's in the adventures. So that's a shocker for you, Mac. If you haven't heard "The Garden" by Guns N' Roses, that is a fantastic B-side from Use Your Illusion 1, I believe. But yep. Yes. Old school World of Darkness was way better than the new stuff. Part of that is because I can't remember the designer's name, but they fired or parted ways with the guy who actually made the first edition of Vampire the Masquerade, and I believe had a big hand in Werewolf. They separated from somebody who wanted to make games and focused more on people who wanted to make basically books that they forced their players to run into. So, yes, indeed. To the bar is heard at the end of You Ain't the First. Another great. And I said it when we were supposed to be talking about Hero of the Day and Metallica. There really aren't very many bad Guns N' Roses songs. Let's face it, Guns N' Roses, from Appetite all the way through Use Your Illusion, is pretty stellar, rock solid. A lot of burning grass in those days. Yes, there was. And there was a tremendous amount of burning grass in the creation of songs like The Garden. As a matter of fact, if you take a look-see here, that's actually what the song is about. You know, they're all singing about, you know, throwing yourself on the shelf and, you know, wandering around like in a daze with a smile on your face and dancing and, you know, getting lost and turning into a crazy man's utopia. It is all about it ain't necessarily just grass. It's about burning a lot of things. Yes, he is. Axl Rose is the death and the birth of Guns N' Roses. He is one of the greatest frontmen of all time. He is an absolutely amazing singer. He's an incredibly talented songwriter. He's an incredibly talented multi instrument musician. He's actually a pretty brilliant businessman when he's not being a douchebag, but he is also a colossal douchebag. He is a colossal asswipe, a massive prima donna narcissist, and a perfectionist that he's a serious perfectionist with anger issues. A lot of his outbursts on stage come from the fact that everything's not absolutely perfect. Except him. Like, I mean, he can be ripped out of his gourd and singing like shit, and it doesn't matter. But if anybody else is 2 cunt hairs off, he's in trouble. You know, he's throwing a microphone or attacking somebody in a crowd. Yeah, this is a Guns N' Roses song, man. Guns N' Roses song, and yes, there is blame there for Death's Angel Shadow, but yeah, and I do agree. You got to have Slash. Got to have Slash. Slash is pretty top shelf. Fantastic guitarist, both blues and his blues influence is amazing. So here we go. Let's see here. Let's see how the Garden turned out. We'll end the poll. Garden turns out to be our second 60%er. Second time that we've had a nice nice little hit there. Thought we were going to use the Guns N' Roses song to talk about Metallica. Yeah, we probably should have. I probably should have spent that. But didn't I use the song before Metallica to talk about Metallica? Let's see here. Where do we go from here? We went to Wasp. We went to Guns N' Roses. I think I have to go. I do think this time I'm going to have to go to Uriah Heep. If you don't know who Uriah Heep is, you don't know what you're missing. Uriah Heep is really, really top shelf. They're classic psychedelic metal. And just like Deep Purple or Black Sabbath, they are one of the very first heavy metal bands that came out in the 70s. And their album Demons and Wizards is, well, I mean, do the math. It's about as perfect as you can get for a, D&D style adventure game. Of course, that's pretty much how all if you listen to heavy metal from 1968 till about 1980, it was pretty much all like getting high and singing about Tolkien, or pulp, one of the two. So let's go with this one. You know what? I was thinking about doing Rainbow Demon because Rainbow Demon A is extremely easy. I'm actually currently using it in a 3.5 campaign. I've used it before, and it's amazing. But we are going to go and do Lady in Black from Uriah Heep. We'll talk about some funk metal. Good stuff. While I get this poll set up, take a look at some of these lyrics, guys. Let's see here. Except for the biggest guy, Sabbath, Kiss. I mean, come on, man. You cannot sit here and put Kiss in the same discussion as Black Sabbath and Uriah Heep. Come on, man. I mean, sure, they got a couple of cool party rock songs out there. Yes, Trivium is another one of those. That's one of those more modern metal bands that you can pretty much pick half of their catalog and put it up there. In the Court of the Dragon, Villainy Thieves, all kinds of stuff. I mean, Trivium, pretty much the adventures write themselves. But I mean, come on, man, Kiss. I mean, honestly, you really just got me in trouble. we have to be true here. You said Kiss in my chat, and I have said Kiss multiple times on my stream. And it's kind of like saying Beetlejuice. If you say Kiss 3 times in a mirror, Gene Simmons' lawyers show up and demand royalties. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. So let's take a look at the Heat, guys. Like I said, Rainbow Demon and the Wizard are both like, and Traveler in Time are all 3 just walk in the park easy ones. Let's go a little bit more out there with the Lady in Black, song about struggles with, within yourself. And if you want to go more, want to go smoke my cigarette with style. So I can tell you, honey, you can make my money, so I can give it to Gene Simmons tonight. So the great song, Lady in Black, it really is. About, if we want to take it literally, to me, it has a very strong Frost Giant's daughter vibe. The guy's out there, he's been fighting the never-ending battle. He comes across the lady. He's walking in darkness. He's walking in the constant fog of defeat in the fight the endless fight. And when she asks him who his foe is, and he says that, his foe is the need within other men to kill their brothers and without thought to anything else. And he wants to stop war with war. And then she basically comes back and says that she can't think of that battle because it reduces men to animals. And that is basically saying you can't end war with war. Very much kind of a hippy dippy psychedelic punk song. Let me rest at your side, faith and trust and peace. And great song, really is. To me, if I'm writing this as an adventure, especially if I'm writing it as a D&D adventure, once again, this is another one that kind of easily flips over to like a cyberpunk setting, because all you have to do is put a monolithic mega corporation that the party can't beat up there, and then insert this character in some way in there. And the success in the adventure actually becomes either making the decision to continue fighting the never-ending fight, or it turns into the walking away and understanding that the only way to win is to walk away. I think it works a lot better for fantasy. It's inspired by fantasy of setting the players to the impossible task. Letting them get pissed off, right? Letting them feel like you've put them into some way that something they can't win, enemies they can't defeat, and then delivering them with this, giving them the out with this vision, this lady in the lake, this character. So that's the adventure I'm thinking there. Is all of these kind of have a similar theme of beating yourself against the wall, which is in a way kind of great. Let's see here. Oh, you're talking about Hall of the Mountain King. Hall of the Mountain King is, man, you were killing me. I should know this one. I should know. Is that another Ailstorm song, if I'm not mistaken? Give me 1 second, because I, believe it or not, I have a Spotify list here, and this Spotify list is actually TTRPG song list, because I spent a lot of time listening to a bunch of these songs. There's like, trust me, we ain't getting anywhere near through all of them. There's 2.5 hours worth of songs on here. Sabotage is Hall of the Mountain King. And yes, it's actually on the list. It was actually on my list there, which I think I'll do that. I'll do a community post here a little bit later, and I'll publish everything that I currently have on the list. But yeah, I mean, what kind of thoughts do we have about Our Lady in Black here? Her black coat disappear, my labor is no easier. But I know that I'm not alone. Comes in, saves the party, gives them the bailout from the undefeatable situation, lets them know it's not there, but lets them know that they're not alone in their fight. Zed. You can't use Zed because, if I'm not mistaken, Zed is about Zedekis Zulzorinder from the Wizard's First Rule series. Was it members from Sabotage that made TSO? I know that there's a crap load of people. There's a crap load of people from various '80s hair metal bands that are in TSO. I can't remember what the main guy was. I know that lineup has changed several times over. Wife and I are going to see them here soon. That's try to make that an annual thing. Though we went to see Mannheim Steamroller last year. We'll have fun here while we're waiting on the Uriah Heep poll to come in. Let's take a look at the classic Under Pressure. Now, you want to talk about like the last Queen song I would think of to try and turn into an adventure. Let's see. Tomorrow gets me higher. Pressure, people on the streets, chipping around, kicking my brains on the floor. Terror of knowing what this world is about, watching some good friends screaming, let me out. I mean, to be honest, if I was thinking adventure, when I'm talking about, if I'm thinking about Under Pressure, to be perfectly honest, I mean, it's just the general vibe of a cyberpunk game. And you could put it in the serfdom level of a fantasy game. The only problem is like when you're talking about player characters, even at level 1 are so powerful and well equipped that the concept of them being serfs or from the serfdom or the peasantry is more or less laughable. It just is. They're far too. They have access to far too many resources to ever be of the peasantry. So I'm not sure where I would go there, especially because Under Pressure is more about stress tearing the family apart and secrets and various other things that have to do with certain lifestyles tearing families apart and breaking apart their community. But I would assume you could do something of that nature where you could have some sort of outside force that puts enough that shows something that is a community, town, whatever. Maybe you mix Hero of the Day, Hail to the King, Under Pressure. You mix them all together. When the person comes back, you have your Hero of the Day style adventure trying to come back to the life they really want. But they find the kind of what's the word I'm looking for? The perverted, the dystopian thing, the dystopian climate, the tyranny that's taken over when they get back to their home that ruins their homecoming, and they see how the pressure has fractured friendships that they knew existed. They see how the tavern owner and the barmaid who used to always have the jovial back and forth hate each other and at each other's throats now. How the general store owner, almost like It's a Wonderful Life, when he does the whole, I wish I'd never been born, and comes back and sees life without him, and everybody's kind of a jackass now. I guess you could kind of put all three together in that way. I do think Hall of the Mountain King does actually break my rule. I was doing some look on it or some research on it, I don't think Hall of the Mountain King actually references any specific particular work. Um, I really don't think it does. Zed, I think you probably could do that with I think you probably could do that with Cyberpunk pretty well. It's like I said, Under Pressure really kind of highlights the I live in the shitty part of. Actually, I'd say it's kind of the I live in that kind of the burbs in Cyberpunk, where you don't have the freedom, albeit the desperation of the edge runners and stuff that are in the lower class parts of town, but you also don't have the wherewithal and the freedom and the um, wherewithal and the freedom and the resources of the upper crust. So let's see here. I think that is actually going to be our last song for the night, The Under Pressure, just because we are coming up to a couple hours here. But I'm about to scroll through some comments real quick. Let's see how that last poll went. Into that. 100% for Lady in Black. I did not have any Halloween songs on the list. I may add that at some point. Like I said, I'm going to put out a list of a bunch of songs that I already had on a community post, and everybody can feel free to comment underneath there. And who knows, maybe I'll actually make this and publish some pay what you want adventures on Drive Through RPG with it. I mean, I got Affinity Publisher. I can make that happen. Let's see. All right, so we're going to scroll through, hit some comments down here real quick. Let's see here. Can't stand that Under Pressure song. I'm not going to lie, it's never been one of my favorites either. I kind of see it as I'm not a big David Bowie fan to start with. And I'm not entirely sure that it's the best use of Freddie Mercury's immense talent or Brian May's talent for that matter. There's a lot better stuff by Queen out there. For instance, the entire Highlander soundtrack. And then, of course, you want to talk about cheese. You can't do that right there. You know that's a good Halloween joke for you. You go, knock knock, who's there? A who, a who? Werewolf in London. Anyway, that's a great one for you to hit your kids with for those dads out there. Now, yes, the Highlander movie. Ricky, I watched the Highlander movie. It was shit. It's a great movie. Love Highlander. Like I said, not yet, but it could be. Look for the community post. I'm going to farm some engagement off of that. Tell your friends, tell them all to go to vote for your favorite songs. Yeah, there's and especially in the 80s, you had a lot of really good like whole album fantasy rock riffs that were awesome. I think the prog metal and the trying to remember what it is. Oh my god. It's the metal genre that you get like Dragon Force and to a certain extent bands like Sabaton in. Oh my god. I can't remember what that hyper theatrical style of metal is. It's killing me. I'll look it up later. But that particular power metal, that's it. Your power metal bands like that, they are I mean, they do a lot of stuff. Like you can mine them out into infinity for adventure ideas. Generally, like I said, what I like to do with these things is I like to listen to them. I like to look at the lyrics and stuff. I like to pick a few key visuals out to make my villain or to make my key feature or something. But I really like to pull the vibe as the, to use that modernist term vibe as the thing that I really like to pull to inspire adventures. See. Played through the whole Pharaoh module series with Pyromania on a repeat. That may not be a bad idea. That may not be a bad idea at all. I'm not one who plays, despite the topic for the night, I'm not one who actually plays music for his games. I did download the entire Quake soundtrack that Trent Reznor did for a Halloween game one year for some ambiance and atmosphere music, but I'm just not big on that. I like to have my players like super inwardly focused on what's going on at the table. I don't want them missing something because of music. I don't want them being distracted by the music. I want them focused on the visuals, and I want them entirely in their heads. And I know that for some people, the music can help with that. For others, it doesn't. But definitely don't hate it, and it's not. It definitely works for some, and it can really work well. Yeah, Def Leppard. I don't think Def Leppard would be too far off. Def Leppard, though Def Leppard had a lot of bombastic, super 80s rocky type stuff. Things like pretty much 90% of the Hysteria album, that sort of thing, would be a little rough. But you could do some great cyberpunk stuff with that, especially if you wanted to go more comical and more satirical with your cyberpunk, more over the top. We could do some Rocket Baby, send them up to the satellite of love. That wouldn't be too bad now, would it? Have some fun with that one. Yes, that is absolutely hilarious that the Kurgan, which he's been everywhere, man. That you want to talk about an actor that's somewhat prolific? I mean, he has been everywhere. What's his name? Clancy, and he has been all over the place. And he's almost always a bad guy too. But yeah, we got some using synth metal, dungeon synth or ambient music, sort of playing a person. Black metal vinyl. Listen to some Typo Negative while you're trying to play. There you go. There you go. You want your horny bard? Here, play some Typo Negative. Clancy Brown. There it is. Well, guys, I do think, yes, he was great as a drill sergeant in Starship Troopers, Mac. He absolutely was. Well, guys, I do think we're coming up. We're 2 hours, almost 2.5 hours at this point, 2 hours, 20 minutes. So I think we're going to go ahead and call it here. This one's been fun. I like this topic. Since I've somehow conned myself into committing myself into doing 2 of these streams every month, I would love to hear some topics of discussion because God knows coming up with them all on myself, I'm going to run out of stuff eventually. But I appreciate you guys coming out. Just want to go back. We're going to run down the thank you list real quick of, good old Mr. Mac Thompson dropping a couple bucks our way. Dan throwing some stuff into the car fund. Agile Monk stepping in with 5 brand new members to throw out their way. And of course, the Death Angel Shadow repping Guns N' Roses with a couple bucks there. I love you guys. Appreciate y'all for throwing a couple bucks my way and helping support the dream here. And hope to see you guys here on X and Discord and all those other places and whatever else I upload, jump on there, throw your like on, hit that thumbs up and all that fun stuff. But send your friends and hopefully we'll have a good time here in 2 weeks. Once again, stream schedule is 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, the first and third Thursday of the month. See you guys next time.